Hey everyone, this is Saeed. Welcome to Messy Growth. Most B2B marketers talk a big game about growth, demand gen, and scaling. Then you ask them, have you ever actually built something from zero? And suddenly it's crickets. Our guest today, Natalia Slota, she built an e-commerce jewelry brand between marketing exec gigs, Shopify setup, influencer partnerships, photo shoots, packing boxes herself at night, grew it fast through paid social, and then shut it down because she ran out of hours in the day, something that I can relate to. That's the kind of operator mindset you don't find in most marketing consultants. She's led growth at Biblio, 11th fastest growing UK startup, built demand generation engines at mortgage tech companies, and now runs a B2B marketing agency called Apricot, helping tech companies set up and scale their growth engines. Today, we're going to be talking about how to actually build pipeline when you don't have an infinite budget, what B2B companies get wrong about demand generation, and why the best marketing lessons sometimes come from side hustles that you eventually have to kill, unfortunately. Natalia? Thanks for sitting down with me.
Thanks for having me, Syed. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. Basha Zerkovska, she's a mutual friend of ours. She spoke highly of you, and I was really looking forward to the conversation. And I am curious because this is one of the first questions I was going to ask you. Where did you get the name Apricot from for the agency? Are you an Apple fan by any chance?
To be honest, yes, I am an Apple fan. That's correct. I do have everything Apple. However, yes, the name was a mix of brainstorming between me, my friends, and ChatGPT. And I just got a huge list of names that, just wanted to sound amazing.
Mm.
And I really like how Apricot sounds indeed and how it looks and, the font play that you can have with it and the logo and the favicon. So
Yeah.
it just struck with me, and there's cats in Polish in the name, so and I'm a proud cat owner, so that also worked.
No, absolutely. That's perfect. Now, you've worked at the 11th fastest growing startup in the UK, founded two companies. You're now building your B2B agency, Apricot. I look at that and it's one of two things. I'm either impressed or exhausted. Which one should I be?
I hope you're a bit impressed. Of course, it wasn't my goal when I was doing this. My idea of my working life is just the great things with great people. And that's the goal that I'm aiming for. And with reasons, with the jewelry brand, I just wanted to do something completely different, something that was on the creative side of marketing, on B2B. I also really enjoyed doing, photo shoots back in the days, and I just really wanted to start doing those again. And it was just a cool project that I thought I'm gonna enjoy a lot, from the start to finish. And I had this philosophy when I
Right.
was, in Bali, that I wanted to create these cool experiences in a sense, not only, sending packages with jewelry, but also having this like whole packaging that resonates and, cool brand around it. And B2C marketing is so much different from what I was doing for years, which is B2B tech marketing. And I just wanted to try it out. It didn't work. I mean, it worked to the point, but I just didn't have much time, so I decided to shut down. But it was a great adventure, and I've learned a lot for sure.
Yeah. Especially when you're doing something of your own, it's always exciting because you put your heart and soul into it and you want it to grow. The results from there are always just a little bit different. You did mention one thing, B2C marketing. I asked somebody this question, which one's more fun, B2B or B2C? In your opinion, which one is it?
Oh, I think wherever there's a budget, it's very hard to do marketing without a budget. Sometimes, founders approach me and they just have the budget for the salary, which is okay, it is a start, but then they expect the marketing person to do everything organically and to just go viral, and they think it's super easy. Well, it's not. It demands a lot of knowledge, a lot of testing. And yeah, I think if you have the budget, you can really test and scale. But in B2C, the marketing has a different role, right? It has a pivotal role,
Yeah.
where you can really, like, it's a leverage. In B2C, the marketing is sales. And in B2B, you rely on other teams as well. You rely on the product team to create a great product. You rely on, I mean, in B2C as well, but in B2B even more. There is an alignment with product marketing, for example, with the product teams on really translating the benefits of the product to the market language And then you have the sales with which you have to cooperate very closely. I think it also depends on the deal size. For example, the smaller the deal size, like for example, if you have, I don't know, like subscription, B2B startups like Surveycate, for example, where Bassett was working, marketing, has a bigger role just because it drives more revenue. Whereas in B2B enterprise, where I was working mostly, where, the deal is big, even like £1 million or €1 million, and the sales cycles are long, it's obviously more sales driven. So marketing has more of a supporting role.
Sure.
And, you still need a great marketing. There's no question about it, but it's more complicated. It's more complex. The attribution is different. There are more touch points. So in B2C, in Durally, for example, it's definitely more exciting, but then it's also more time consuming because you're doing similar amount of workload, but then you sell, I don't know, like 10 boxes, and the revenue, the ROI might be a bit different.
Yeah.
So I guess it's pros and cons, but you need to be creative
Sure.
in both ways for sure.
Like I was talking to somebody about this, and they said that marketing is both a analytical and a creative job. You can't have one without the other, because you can be very creative, but if you can't analyze the result of that creativity, chances are you're not going to go far in marketing. So I hear what you're saying. I guess I'll tell you, one of the good fortunes of working at large companies or companies that are popular, you worked at one of the fastest growing companies, startups in the UK. Folks think you've figured it all out. I guess in terms of myth busting, what was one thing that made growth possible for Biblio that most people wouldn't guess normally?
Yeah, so let me maybe explain what Biblio
Sure.
is to begin with, because I don't think it's a very well-known startup in Poland, especially. So Biblio is a very interesting company because it basically brings textbooks to universities in online platform. So it's a platform basically where students can read their textbooks, not through going to the library and renting the physical print, but they can access the platform and they can write their notes. They have like text to speech functionality, basically much more engaging, and your tutors can also send you the reading through that platform. So it's a pretty cool thing. And I think why it was so successful, I was working there for, I think, not even 2 years. And I started during COVID, which was a very interesting time to start any new thing, to be honest.
Yeah.
We all know that it was a very turbulent time. And I think that there are a few factors that contributed to that success. And first one was obviously the product was pretty great. I think it was a revolutionary product in a way that, students that were, Gen Z people, they expect everything to be online. And professors, they, expect more and more technology, like how are the students using the textbook? Have they read the materials, and so on and so on. And of course, the libraries weren't providing that. So basically, we were selling these platforms, to universities, mostly to university libraries. Big deal sizes, no trust, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Something that we needed to fight. However, we decided to do it in a few ways. First of all, ABM. There's a limited amount of universities in the UK, so we really need to map the accounts. There are around 140 universities, still much more than in Poland, for example, definitely with bigger budgets. But there is a limited size. Out of those universities, some were already using the competitor, some didn't have the budget, weren't open to change. So let's say that there were maybe 1/3 of universities that would be open to the solution. And then you need to target those universities very precisely. You need to know who's working there, what are their values, what is the university strategy that we read very carefully. So there was a big amount of research regarding that. And I think what was very successful was a very close cooperation with sales and SDRs. We also created a community of trust between those universities. So we would be hosting monthly, let's say, spill the tea events where, each time there would be a different university talking about their struggles. And it's like they're kind of competitors, but they also, they have the same problem, and so they want to talk to each other and they want to see how other people are solving the problems that they haven't had.
Yeah.
So between the universities, there's a lot of trust, and we decided to tap into that. And we were hosting these, let's say, webinars that were sponsored. We would be giving Uber Eats vouchers to every attendee, £20 Uber Eats vouchers. And like the directors, they loved it, They would just come for the Uber Eats voucher and they would stay for the content. So, it's such a great ROI if you think about it.
100%.
Because it's not that much money, right? And the result was amazing. We were also producing content, lead magnets, other events, of course, a lot of blog posts, social media, and email campaigns, of course. But I think this collaboration, the strategic collaboration, how to target these universities with what. But I think I think it's very it's very like natural and intuitive to place this role to the merit. And I think there was an amazing amount of work done in the space that produced amazing results. But let's not forget that the external factors were also of great importance. And in this particular case, we're operating in the world of COVID precisely.
Yeah.
And in the COVID, people, students wouldn't visit universities. They wouldn't go to libraries to pick up books. They expected everything to be done online. And they wanted their books to be present online. So that really affected our sales process as well, because there was just a need, there was a demand for this kind of solution, which also helped us to accelerate sales. So I think there was a very strong product market fit, especially at the time. So that was also like, we were just lucky at some point, but we were able to utilize that luck to the maximum, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, COVID kind of changed all of the marketing playbooks. A lot of the playbooks kind of went right out the window. The fact that you were able to adapt is a story in and of itself, right? I mean, you might be very lucky, but you still have to work it out and do the campaigns and everything to make it successful. I'm curious, you went from selling to universities to selling jewelry on Instagram. What surprised you most about the difference in which or how people actually buy?
Yes, that's a big change. And that's also part of the reason why I decided to do something totally different, because, I'm a very creative spirit. I'm also very analytical, as you mentioned. I also love psychology, by the way. And I think that marketing really connects these three things all together, right?
Right.
And for me, building something totally different was a big creative project.
Yeah.
And that was the reason why I decided to go into that direction, something that really, resonated with me at that point of time. And that also taught me a lot of new skills as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You need to start somewhere, right? And I think it's like, the thing that surprised me was the volume with which you need to operate in B2C to be profitable. And the margins, especially in such a competitive industry like jewelry, they're very slim. And I didn't realize how much of that margin would be eaten up by taxes.
Oh, welcome to Poland.
There are taxes. Yeah, there are taxes for everything. There's tax on duty, there's tax on delivery, there's VAT that you need to account for. There's tax on your profit, and then you pay for the platforms like Shopify and the email marketing and Google Suite.
Overheads.
And and for the ads, obviously, for the marketing of it all. And then you're doing all this amazing work, but then you have like, maybe 20 zloty of the margin on the order, and you're doing like so much work, and then you're like, oh my God, is it really worth it? Probably at scale it is, but to reach that scale, you need to be very, very consistent and, be also quite lucky, because there's a lot of competitors that are doing exactly the same thing. So it's like, okay, I'm doing full-time work, and it was a mortgage startup at that time. And then I'm coming back home and I still need to send all the orders, package all the things. And I would be I'm a perfectionist. So I would be writing a hand written note on every order. I would put dried flowers. It was like the whole experience. And I was just drained. And then you just have like 15 zlotys or 20 zlotys, and it was just not worth it.
Yeah.
So it was like the creation of it, the photo shoots and the marketing was fun, and like influencers, partnerships, like Edita Herlus, which was who was a very famous celebrity, would be promoting in barter, and there were some like very cool people that I would be connecting to, and the startup, like the start of the e-commerce store, opened up these doors to me. But and the customers, they were like super appreciative and happy, but it was a tough job, so I just decided to close it.
Yeah. No, I can imagine. I mean, you said something about 20 zloty you're making per order, let's just say on average. It's less than niższy krajowa, right? It's something it resonates a lot because my wife, she has a patisserie and she has a passion for baking. She enjoys baking. People love her cakes or cookies, what have you. She makes these weird kind of cakes. They're so nice and actually tasty. And in her words, what she describes her job is that she loves the baking side of things. That's her passion. She hates or dislikes the business side of things because of what you said. It's just a major time suck. And then when you look at it and you do pluses and minuses and whatever you're left with, you're like, I mean, that just kills your passion for a lot of reasons, right? Because there's not a lot left at the end of the day, which is a pity because, we need a little bit of creativity in the world to make it a little bit more interesting. For the most part. Yeah. Sorry to hear that. If you wanted, I would have connected you to Anya Kruk. I do propose that. But yeah, it's an interesting story. So you've generated hundreds of, moving from B2C back into your other experience, you've generated hundreds of leads at Oper through content, events, outbound ads, with PR as well. If you could only pick two of these channels for, let's say, a $2 million ARR B2B SaaS company, which two and why?
Be honest, I don't think there is one recipe for success in growth. Each product is different, each ICP is different. And I think the general rule of thumb is try to produce value, right? The most intuitive thing would be produce value of the product. Really make sure that you have the product market fit before you invest in any marketing. I think marketing should be like a cherry on top. And if you invest at that stage, you're going to be successful. I think you're going to have the ROI. But if you don't have a product market fit, you might just lose money. So that would be like before we jump into any channel, really make sure that you're solving the right problem and that you're coming from a place of providing value. And even with marketing, this value creation is important because you might ask yourself like, okay, what is the value I'm creating, not only with the product, but also how can I convince people to use the product through the value like that is generated in other ways, because that value creates relationships, it creates trust. And for example, it may be content that you provide for free, let's say lead magnet,
Sure.
ebook, Notion page even, right? Valueships does it really well. They have a lot of content that provides an amazing value, and then you can produce, webinars, events around that content, which is very interesting. But it also depends on the stage of the market that you're in, of the product awareness, of the brand awareness. For example, in Open, we had a challenge because we were very well known in Belgium, for example. But in Germany, there was no brand awareness about Open whatsoever, which was a market that we were just entering. There was also a little bit of competition in the market. Basically with Open, let's just say, just to provide a little bit more context as well, it was a mortgage tech company that was selling their mortgage platform usually in a white label way to banks, to brokers at the beginning as well, but then to banks. It was just made more business sense.
Sure.
So again, very ABM, there is a limited amount of banks.
Yeah.
But in Belgium, exactly, where we already had clients, we had also, success stories that were working really well. So of course, when you see your competitor using a like certain tool, you want to try the same thing because you're afraid to be left behind, and you also want to have this newest technology in the market to be more efficient. So that was much easier But in Germany, we just needed to build that brand awareness, and we did that through, ads. Again, very close sales alignment on ABM. We're targeting specific accounts, specific banks that we identified as high priority. So we will be, showing them, all the ads, all the brand, all the content, all the events, the webinars. Then we would, when we saw, for example, on the LinkedIn dashboards that they were engaging with the ads, that we were seeing the content for a while and with certain frequency, then we would outbound. We would do outbound. So we would handle those accounts to sales, say like, okay, we're reaching these like companies, let's say, with these titles. Of course, LinkedIn doesn't allow you to see which specific profiles saw the ads, but you can kind of deduct, right? And we would like CRM is also like super, super important. High quality data, emails, clean, make sure that it doesn't bounce. If it bounces, automatically send it to the bounce list so you don't send bounced contacts again. But really having that LinkedIn brand awareness with LinkedIn outbound and then email outbound as well really worked really well. And then, once they start engaging, you add them to the nurturing sequence and you start educating them about, like again, the value that you're providing through content. And then you start making them aware of the product as well, so they convert. And that worked really well for us. Of course, in Belgium, it was a different case. There was already brand awareness in place, so we needed to nurture the leads from the get-go. I mean, when I joined, it was the case. So again, like, through events, lead magnets, organic as well. There was a huge, there was a lot of interchangeable puzzles that we put together. So if I had to choose two, let's say, because that was the question. Oh gosh, it's really hard. I would say email, very high performing, but needs to be used strategically with clean data. You cannot stump people, obviously, but it's very, very effective and brings you a lot of data, especially if you have good CRM like HubSpot that shows you exactly who interacted with your emails. So yes, email, and for us, LinkedIn, just because everyone's on LinkedIn. But of course, it depends on the market as well and the ISP.
100%. You mentioned a few times product market fit. What is product market fit for those who don't know the term?
Product market fit. It's very, very, very important. And probably people from product would tell more about it. But for me, it's making sure that you solve a real problem in the markets you want to be in. And I've seen it plenty of times. People have founders, especially technical founders. They have amazing ideas, and they really want to build this, and they spend a lot of time and money and resources, right? To build this solution that then, nobody really uses, because first of all, you might be the only person with the problem. There might not be enough market for this problem to be solved, or there might be already solutions in the market. People might not be waiting for your product. So before even you build, and I think that's also very interesting from the marketing standpoint, before you build, before you come up with, I don't know, like an agency idea, and this is what I did with Apricot. Before I even built the website, I tested like, oh, is there a fit in the market? I'm gonna, maybe send an outbound message to my ICP, let's say in Switzerland, that was like, hey, I'm trying to do this and this. I'm like a marketing consultant. Maybe we can work together. I've seen that you're doing this. Maybe there is a window for collaboration. And I knew that there are, already so many B2B marketing agencies. Does the world need another B2B marketing agency for tech brands? Let me find out, So I went to the market and asked them, and the response was positive. And, especially if you don't have the marketing presence, if people don't know your brand, you might attract these early adopters early on. And by pulling them in this ideation and this fitting process and this co-creation, they might become your first customers. And this is usually the trickiest part. Like, oh, how do I attract the first customers? This might be the right point, because once you have these customers, then you have the success stories, and you have the response and the feedback as well. So you can also perfect the product and see what the market is needing actually. So, really talk to people, come to the market and see if it works.
So you're not a firm believer in like build it and they will come type of strategy, right? You're more about research, try to figure out if there is a need or even a want before you go ahead and start investing a lot of your dollars, energy, and time into this.
Yeah, I know that Steve Jobs said that people that know what they want, you just need to show it to them, right? And I guess it does work, but it's risky. It does work sometimes, but you need to be lucky. So yeah, I would just talk to people, even like ask them about their struggles, and operate in this way.
100%. You said something interesting on doing research before I wanted to speak to you. You said you help B2B teams scale smarter. I guess if you kind of flip the question a little bit in that statement, what's the dumbest way you've seen a B2B company try to scale, and what should they have done instead?
Yeah, so I think this product market fit would be the top one. And so really make sure that you have the product market fit before you invest anything. And it's actually so much easier to do right now with all the tools that we have at our disposal, with the even ChatGPT deep research, right? You can do it that way and then just really talk to people. But I think the other thing was hiring experts, let's say in the marketing field, and then telling them what to do. I mean, it's awesome to have ideas, and this process usually should be a brainstorming. But I think it can really kill morale if you just tell people that, have a wealth of experience and have a track record of success. And then you just tell them like, oh, no, this is what the competitor is doing. We need to do it this way. And also the other thing is making teams work in silos. And I think it's especially tricky in a remote setting, because usually people work, individually, but really having this alignment between product, between sales, and between marketing, and having someone that is like kind of like overseeing the whole collaboration. I think it's also very important to make sure that there is an alignment, and that, it's very easy for marketing to be completely siloed. And that, I think, creates a lot of distrust and misalignment and wasted resources. So I would say that's, especially again, like enterprise B2B, this alignment between sales needs to be very close, and there needs to be a constant feedback loop, like, okay, this is who we want to reach from the sales perspective. How can we do that? And then marketing brainstorms. And then, for example, marketing creates this wide campaign. This is something that we're doing with our client Snowstack right now. We have two campaigns. One is ABM. And then we have another campaign, which is kind of like broad. And we see, okay, like which accounts engage with us, which accounts see our ads. And then we give these accounts to sales, and they might be, okay, like this is completely wrong. These accounts, we know they're not interested, and we would just delete them from the campaign, exclude them, let's say. And then, but some of them, they might be quite good for the outbound. So even if the leads are not generated through inbound, it's this whole question of attribution, which is probably another topic. But I would say these three things are definitely the key to success.
You raise a pretty interesting point about marketing being siloed out. I could argue a lot of the companies, especially in a remote environment, or teams, feel like they're siloed. How do you align? Let's just say most B2B marketers, they tend to say we need to align marketing and sales. You've done it in multiple companies. You've said it yourself. What's the one thing that actually makes that happen? Not the theory side of things, but the real thing that actually works.
I think that's a very interesting challenge. And it may sound like such a simple problem to solve, like, yes, just have more conversations or put more time in your calendars. Like, I don't think it's that straightforward. I think that, and that's probably another debate, but I think that people operate in tribes and communities, and communication is such an interesting challenge on its own. And I think that the way to create that trust and to create that alignment is really to get to know the person personally. And for us in Opera, what really worked? It really worked when we just went to Munich for a conference, me and salespeople, and we were just at the stand for the full day. And then we went for drinks and we were walking around Munich, and it was just, we didn't even talk about work. We were, it was pure fun, and we just connected on a totally different level. And it was just so much easier for us to exchange information, on Slack afterwards, and exchange ideas, and even, just act a bit stupid sometimes, and just, completely out of the box. And there was a huge age gap between me and salespeople as well, and they were men. I was like a girl, right? So from the outset, it would be like, it was looking very challenging. But once we knew each other on a personal level, and once we created that tribe, right, and that's really clicked. So I think that, really put an effort to make these personal connections, open up, and just be open to the communication from the other parts as well. And then whatever alignment you decide to create. And to be honest, it was easier for us because we operated as one team. It was a go-to-market team instead of marketing and sales teams separately. So as a foundation, that was also very helpful to proceed.
I
Yeah.
totally agree with you about the point of meeting in person. Nothing can beat that. I mean, of course, if you add drinks in the mix, things are always pretty interesting, and you get to interact with people in a different way. Barriers go down. But yeah, I think with the introduction of remote work, we definitely need more of that. Our teams actually feel a lot. That's why if they meet once or twice a year, the energy is there. They get to know, and like you said, create tribes. So 100%, I think this is if anybody wants to measure ROI, this is the easiest money you will ever spend, and it's going to yield you benefits and results 10x. So in talking about scaling marketing, I would say, what are some of the most common mistakes you see B2B companies make when they're trying to scale marketing? Like the thing where you see it happening and you go, God, not again.
Oh my gosh, yes. There is this fun thing that I think is a universal challenge for a lot of marketeers, especially in B2B, especially coming from tech founders. Because business founders, they have a bit of a different perspective, I've noticed. But tech founders that are very scientific, they are coming from engineering field, for example, they want data. And fair enough, we all love data. Data is awesome. We can definitely make some good decisions based on data, but sometimes it's counterproductive, and you need to use your common sense instead. So one of the examples that I've seen in one of the companies that I was working for a while ago was that the founder, the CEO, he wanted us to attribute everything to a tactic. And everything, I mean, leads generated. And we would have this excruciating 1 hour conversation every 2 weeks where we just have slides. And each slide would be a tactic, like blog, like ads, like blog content, events, emails, basically everything, the attribution, and like how many leads has this generated, right? How many form fills has this generated? And of course, like you ask this poor content marketeer, like how many leads has your blog generated this month? And the answer is, like probably 0, because there's no direct path from blog to demo blog. But doesn't make sense to stop blog altogether? Probably not. At least, that's not a proper way to make that decision, right? And what was lacking was attribution. Of course, attribution platforms, they're very expensive. They're also not 100% correct. And again, in these enterprise deals where the sales process is very long and it takes a lot of touch points to to engage with that lead. I've seen somewhere that it takes around 7 touch points before there is even an intent, right?
Oh my God.
And then there is a sales process where you need a different level of touch points, right?
Demos, qualification
Um,
calls, and so on and so forth.
Exactly. And they want to see if you worked with similar cases before, what results you produce. So it's not as easy as it may seem, right?
Yeah.
And I think you need to work on marketing and you need to look at marketing at a bit more holistic way. It's a journey, and it's not that, okay, someone will see your brand awareness ad and they will think like, oh yes, I'm ready to spend this 1 million on this company. Sign me up right now. It's probably not going to work that way, like people are complex, complex beings, and we need to be convinced, we need to be educated. We need to make sure that, yes, this will not cause me reputational damage if I send this company to my CEO or whoever is in charge, and it's a long journey. It's a long journey, and you just sometimes need to use common sense as well as the analytics.
It's a combination of things, right? Like, I understand the question of attribution as a CEO or somebody would want to know, like, what exactly is the net benefit of the work that we're doing. But unless you have systems in place that can check that and verify or showcase data, it's counterintuitive to be asking those questions because you're just going to burn the person out. And it's just not a good practice to begin with in business. So yeah, I totally agree with you on the attribution and the whole holistic approach of how you should take when it comes to marketing. Changing the gears a little bit, Reasons PL was growing fast, but you shut it down because you ran out of time. We're starting to see a trend here. Looking back, what did running that business teach you that you now apply when advising B2B clients?
Wow, that's such an interesting question because it's such a different company. I would say stay focused, because I think this is what I was lacking back then. And that's really caused me a headache down the line, because, and if you think that, if you know that something is not working, and it can be on many different fronts, right? It can be even internal, I don't know, like bad recruitment, and bad hires or whatever. Just don't waste more time and effort and investment than is necessary. Just cut it, right? And just really, this 80-20 rule, spend 80% of efforts, let's say, on the most impactful things. I think that's a very good advice to give. On the other front, though, and I think that building Apricot is also helping me with that perspective. Being a founder gives me a wealth of knowledge on how other founders operate and what they need and what they struggle with, and how I should be communicating with them, what problem they need to be solving, what things they're focusing. Because from the get-go, something that I focus a lot on right now, especially, is providing value. And even with Reasons, the jewelry, it was the answer to pretty bad jewelry that I was buying at low cost versus very expensive jewelry that was obviously of very high quality. And I couldn't find the balance, so I decided to find this stainless steel gold-plated jewelry at a very low cost. So I was like trying to provide value in that way. Right now, it's obviously very different value, but even right now I can relate to like different founders. Like, okay, maybe this is not the right time to even invest in marketing because you don't have the PMS in place, right? That is a very, very broad answer to your very specific question. I'm not sure if that makes sense.
No, it does.
But
100%.
But this is what I would recommend, because for me, Reasons, because I was doing it as a side gig, it was taking up a lot of my effort, a lot of my focus, a lot of my energy. And I think in the retrospect, I should have closed it down before, just to keep my sanity in place.
Yeah. I'm curious, Natalia, being a founder, I assume is taxing work. I know we glorify it when we look at people, oh, that person, she is a CEO here, she is a CEO there, and so on and so forth. It looks pretty nice, right? These people who just kind of like grinded their way to the top and built something and it's doing millions of dollars in ARR. Is being a founder, is it really cut out to be all that? Or is there more when you start to peel the layers?
Well, I think it's a very taxing job. And my mentor from London, she told me once before I even started Apricot, is that you're going to be probably the only person in your company that will lose sleep because of, your clients, and you will be working during the weekends and evenings, and you might not have much personal time. And I was like, no, I'm not going to be this kind of founder. I'm going to be having work-life balance, right? But when you start doing that and when you start building, like for me, actually, and this is something that I wasn't expecting, it's actually so much fun to do these kind of things. And I find a lot of satisfaction in creating this business because, as I told you, I'm pretty creative person, and for me, this is an outlet for my creativity. Before I was doing photo shoots, now I'm doing business, and that's also pretty cool. It's like suddenly have these challenges, like how do I create a culture that is high performing but also inclusive? How do I, close deals? I wasn't working on sales
Mm.
side before, how do I craft, contracts? So that's totally different layer of things. So there's definitely a lot of other things that we need to learn and think about, and it can be daunting for some people. And I'm afraid that there will be a time that I might not feel that well about it, especially because I felt burnt out at my other commitments before. But right now, I think I'm still in the flow because it's still so fresh. I just started building this in June and now we have November. So it's been a few months. Um, so we're still growing. We're growing very fast. And I have amazing clients that, see the impact of our work, and they trust us to work on a retainer basis, which is
Wow.
pretty cool from from a revenue aspect. But I think it's very important to provide this value that is being visible. So right now, I think that I took the right step because I transitioned from working full time for other businesses to having my own thing. And I think this is something that Basha is doing as well. And we actually chatted on Thursday,
Yeah.
and we connected on this as well, that we're in very, very similar path of our lives right now, which is funny. So it gives me a lot of satisfaction. We'll see how it goes down the line. But I would say to aspiring founders from my very short journey as an agency founder, if you're thinking about it, if you have experience, maybe if you don't know everything yet, just take the leap. You can always go back to full time and try to test the market first. But it might bring you much more fun and ownership and agency to do it on your own. And I think that people don't take enough risks. And this was a calculated risk that I took. And it's so far it's so good, but we'll see. You need to ask me this question in 1 year.
I will.
Maybe the answer will be different.
I will. And cheering for you from the sidelines. It's a pretty inspirational story, Natalia. Like you said something
Thank
about
you.
being burnt out. Something I know a lot about.
Mhm.
Was there a particular thing or something you did that pulled you out of it? If so, can you share what your driving force was?
Yes, uh, in one of my previous companies I was working for, it was not the best environment to work for. There were issues with the processes, with recognition. There were a lot of people that felt the same way. So it was a pretty challenging period of my life. And to be honest, I think that the answer is, seek help. Burnout is a very serious problem. Sometimes it's especially complex if you don't have the freedom to quit right away. You might have kids, you might have mortgage, you might have commitments, and you might not be in the space mentally to find a new job, right? There might be like it's a very, very serious decision. So my advice would be to seek help. There are a lot of resources nowadays. You can visit a doctor, you can visit a therapist. So try that. Open up with these issues. But if you're in the right place, try to end this circle as soon as you can. Cycle, sorry. Try to end the cycle as soon as you can. Try to, seek new employment if the environment is not serving you, because most likely it's not gonna get better. You probably have taken the measures and actions that are at your disposal to change things. I trust that you probably spoke to your superior to change how the company operates. But if that hasn't changed at all, there's life is too short and no amount of compensation is worth your mental health.
Maybe a Lamborghini parked outside.
Okay, maybe. I could suffer for a few months for a Lamborghini. That's true. Plus, it's always better to cry in the Lambo, right? But
there you go. There you go.
There is a boundary. Yeah.
Now we know at least what we can sacrifice. On the topic of burnouts and starting your own businesses, being a founder, one of the major things of the past year and a half have been AI LLMs, right? Like they have been driving most of the news cycles. Now, LLMs and AI, extremely helpful. I mean, I use it in my daily life. I assume you do it too. What do you say to the founders or execs who think that, hey, now that I have ChatGPT and Claude, I don't really need an agency or a marketer or that person because I can just go ahead and do that myself. Like ChatGPT knows the answer. What do you say to those folks that feel skeptical and feel like that they can take it on?
Yeah. Oh, that's very funny because it's a common misconception, like, oh, marketing is so easy, right? And we don't need a marketing person. Now we have ChatGPT trained and so on. My answer is usually, okay, yeah, just do it, And they usually come back to me a few months later, like, okay, we actually need your help because we don't have the resources to do it the right way. In my experience, ChatGPT is like a superpower. It's like a magic wand that can really accelerate your processes and really can bring a lot of efficiency. And I think it's an amazing, amazing invention. And as you said, we use ChatGPT every single day. We have amazing models being created. And again, that's why we are able to work so efficiently and so fast and with such a great output on, and a very limited team so far. So I think that's awesome, but you need to pair it with a human side so far, right? You need to have a human in the loop because otherwise your output will look poor, will look cheap, will be very broad. You need someone to be able to guide the ChatGPT, to be able to guide the prompt, because you will not find what you're looking for if you don't know what you're looking for. And this human in the loop really helps you, define what is it that means high quality output. And really is able to connect all the dots. So I think human paired with great models that you need to navigate, that you need to make better constantly and constantly. I think that's the solution. And ChatGPT is a magic wand, but you need a magician to operate it.
Yeah. Wow.
So I think that's the trick for sure.
I heard this.
But be open to both.
Absolutely. Yeah. I heard this story somewhere, and I don't know whether or not it's accurate. A rocket breaks down, and folks at NASA can't figure out what's wrong with the rocket. So they bring on an expert from the outside, an agency. They hire him. They tell him that, hey, could you tell us what exactly is wrong with the rocket? The guy takes the hammer out, whacks the rocket, and rocket fires up. Everything is good to go. And he charges them about, I think, like $10,000 or whatever for like 4 or 5 minutes of work. And the guy who was the manager there says, well, that seems like a lot of waste. It's a waste of money. I mean, like, you just spent 4 minutes there and you charge me $10,000. Can you send me an itemized invoice? He sends them an itemized invoice. In the invoice, it says, 5 minutes of my time spent, $50 an hour, $100 an hour. knowing where to whack the rocket to get it to working 9,950. And I guess kind of like that's just ties with a lot of what you're saying, right? Like, sure, you can use ChatGPT, but you don't know what you don't know. And like the scars or the battle scars or calluses that you've built them because you have experience. So the person having experience is almost always going to beat whatever tool you have if you just don't know exactly how to use it.
Exactly. I love this. And that's also a question like, about this hourly rate. So yeah. I really agree with you.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting point.
Natalia, before we get to our rapid fire round, I want to ask you one question. A lot of folks want to start their things. They want to start an agency such as yourself, a company such as yourself. You've already done that. You said something very interesting in the beginning, is that, why do we need another agency in the world? Or why do we need another YouTube channel? There's so much there. Everything is saturated. What do you say to that person that just wants to go ahead and get started in something because maybe they like it, feel like that's their expertise, that's where it lies? Is there something you can say to that person who is just thinking about getting started?
Mhm. Yes, of course. And I'm talking to my clients on the consulting side about this as well. I would say that really get out there and talk to people. You know, um, Try to see what others think about your idea. Mentors would be awesome. People in the same space that went through the process or your market. And for example, one of our clients, by the way, is Endeavor Poland. And they're kind of like a cool kids cool club. I like to say, or like a club for unicorns, right?
Mhm.
This is how they're being perceived from the
Right.
outside because it's basically a community for companies like 11 Labs, Booksy, Dog Planner,
Oh my
and so on
Lord.
and so on. Yeah, they're pretty cool. And the way they're providing value is through network, is through the support of mentors. They basically helping these companies that are already unicorns with scaling further, like in the US, for example, or basically other markets that they want to scale. And they help to navigate those uncertainties and challenges through conversations with people that went through the same journey as them. And they have mentors with like, from Silicon Valley,
Sure.
like best London companies, for example. And I see a tremendous value in it. And of course, it's on a larger scale, but you can do the same. People want to help other people. We want to share experiences. We want to share ideas. We want to help others. And yeah, just talk to people. This is what I did as well. When they started my little outbound challenge to test the product market fit and started texting these random people in Switzerland, I actually connected with one of the owners. That was very random of like one of the VC funds in Switzerland. And he was like, yeah, I would love to help you. Let's talk. And we called, and he was like in his mansion in this Alps. And he was like, oh, I'm going to connect you with this person from London. And, and she can be your mentor and da da da. And I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. Like, I would never have expected, just being a full time employee, that it might be so easy to make these connections. And like sometimes, and this is also what I experience, is sometimes it's harder to find a job than to start your own thing and start like having clients. So, take risks. Don't be afraid. If you have a great idea, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Building products is usually harder at the beginning than building agencies.
Mm.
But then agencies obviously are much harder to scale. Right now with ChatGPT and other AI tools, actually even easier to build products. But yes, my answer would be talk to people, build your network, and just try to connect as many dots as possible because we're social beings and
Yeah.
we build tribes.
Yeah.
And yeah, just learn from each other.
100%. You remind me of something my mom used to tell me. There's no greater waste in life than wasted talent. And if you have the talent and you have the desire and you feel like that this is your calling, like you said, just go ahead and get started. Talk to one person, that will lead to one thing and that will lead to another thing, and then it will snowball from there. But you have to go ahead and take the first step and just talk to people. Try to carve your piece of the market out there. That's fantastic. Natalia, this has been great. Really, really inspirational stuff. Got to learn quite a lot. I do love this part of the talk. It's a rapid fire round, quick questions, quick answers. Best advice that you've received, business or personal?
Oh, best advice. Just get out there, just take risks, calculated risk, we probably don't want to lose the whole, house and kids and family. But yes, and learn from, stay humble as well. It's very easy to get your ego start playing a bigger part than it's supposed to.
Yeah.
But yes, take calculated risks, learn as much as you can, go out of your comfort zone, and just be out there and just do things with cool people, and have fun along the way.
This is great. Advice you ignored and wish that you had listened to?
And I think at the beginning of my career, and I think it's very tricky right now for young people. There's a lot of amazing talent, what I witnessed as well, because of ChatGPT and other AI tools. But when I was at that stage after university, I wish I took the agency path.
Oh, really?
I wish I started. Yeah, I wish I started working for the agency, working on a lot of products and learning skills from other people, that were already in marketing, rather than starting already in house for a higher salary, but not having these people and tactics and experience to learn from. I think that's really, I just had to learn a lot of things on my own, kind of reinventing the cycle circle.
Yes.
And that really slowed me down at the beginning. So I would say invest in your growth at the beginning and then reap the fruits afterwards. Really learn as much as you can, because it's very important periods of your development. Yeah.
I agree. What would you tell your younger self, say 7 or 10 years ago?
Don't be afraid. Things will work out. And just take care of your mental health and just meet people. Yeah.
Or go out and have a coffee with Basha.
Yeah, or that. And we say it.
There you go, right? One ongoing challenge in your current work that keeps you up at night.
Yeah. Right now, I'm really looking for a senior person that can help me on the delivery. That is a great fit company-wise, that can help me build the agency that I have in mind, the culture that is resonating. And yeah, this is something that really will accelerate the next stage of growth for us. So this recruitment challenge is important. So if you know anyone, or if you're listening and want to be part of this, let me know. And
Apricot.
And we can get in touch. Yes, Apricot Studio.
There you go.
.com.
Your favorite restaurant meal or spot in Poland?
Ooh. My favorite. You know what? I really, really enjoy this one pasta in Lupo Pasta Fresca in Warsaw.
Okay.
All of the pastas are amazing, to be honest. So
I'm making a note because I'm looking for
recommendations. Sure.
This is a selfish question because I love food and I like going out. So I just ask and I'll get a lot of recommendations, and I'm just chucking them down.
I will send you a lot of recommendations in Warsaw. I was a putty in Warsaw.
There you go. There you go.
We can exchange things for sure.
Absolutely. One tool that you swear by.
One tool
that you swear by. The one that is your favorite and you love it. You can't live without it.
Oh my gosh. Probably Claude and ChatGPT nowadays.
Really? Which one do you prefer, ChatGPT or Claude?
I used to like Claude more because the writing is much more natural. But right now, with deep research from ChatGPT, it really makes it easier to make complex things. So yeah,
100%.
And the agents are pretty cool as well.
Yeah. Natalia, this has been great. I really appreciated you coming on the show. Where can listeners find you?
Yeah.
LinkedIn, website, community, any upcoming project, launch, talk, event that you're excited about?
Yeah, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Always happy to talk to people from the space, and you can follow me there. I sometimes write a few things from my own experience, so feel free to catch me there. And I will share my future initiatives and projects over there as well. I've tried to come to the Founders Night in Warsaw. We'll
Please.
see about that. But I'm cruising between Warsaw and Wrocław, so always happy to catch a coffee as well.
100%.
Grab a coffee.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, folks. Appreciate you coming on, Natalia. Guys, if you got value out of this, share it with someone who needs to hear it. See you next week. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sayat. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.